Hey guys, I wanted to do a quick video and send it out to you. I promise it won't be 15 minutes, but I like doing the videos because it seems like I can communicate what's going on, and it takes a little bit less time than calling a meeting for certain things. So here we go. There's two things that I want to mention to you guys, and this is my second or third time recording this video, but hey, practice makes perfect. So the reason we've got a couple of things that I want to talk to you about, or updates. Again, you're probably thinking or saying, why in the world are we having so many updates? But you know what? In the fall, because we have less activities going on, typically we evaluate collectively and look at some of the things, some of the policies, safety policies, and try and be better stewards of our resources and time, and also how we operate and run things. So typically in October, November is when we look at updates and see if maybe we can initiate a best practice from another church or another nonprofit group that might benefit us with how we're handling something. So another big push for policy updates usually comes from our church attorney, and a lot of times they'll send out a newsletter and it'll explain and say, hey, we've noticed this happening, so we would advise you to do this or that. So a lot of times when I review the information, or when the pastors review the information, we look at it as a whole and say, you know what, this makes a lot of sense to update it, and we want to be on board with the law and legalities that our attorneys suggest. So that kind of gives you a little bit of background. But anyhow, two things that we're going to update and change effective immediately. The first thing is we use the term Code Cane to represent an active shooter situation in our church. Okay? And I'm sure you guys are aware of that. It's been in the policy book almost since we started the safety team ministry. So moving forward immediately, we will no longer be using that term to direct an active shooter situation. Well, why? Well, because what we've learned is that over time, as we have new members come into the church and maybe new folks step into different roles, that a lot of times it can get a little confusing for those individuals to understand exactly what Code Cane means. Okay, we will continue to use Code Adam, and that's in the policy book, because Code Adam is a great resource and organization, and people are familiar with that across the board because retailers use it. Recently I partnered with them, and we've got some great information coming about how to handle that type of situation that will be in the safety office. But as far as that goes, what we will be doing is we'll be replacing the term Code Cane with two terms, lockdown and emergency lockdown. Now, what's the difference between those two? Well, a lockdown would be something where there is an event going on in the community or the neighborhood, and we feel it's in the best interest of everyone here on church campus to go ahead and secure the building or secure the buildings. Possibly if it was a situation outside in the apartments next door or in the cemetery, we'd still want to secure the bus garage and make sure that the people that were operating out of there were safe as well. So a lockdown really means we're taking advanced steps to protect and secure the facilities from something that's going on in the neighborhood. Okay? An emergency lockdown would be a situation where it directly impacts the church campus and the church facility. So if we were to have an active shooter or another type of situation where we felt it was in the best interest of and safety of the individuals that were in the church, at that point we would call an emergency lockdown, and the same thing would apply. We would immediately lock the doors, make sure the building was secure, and not let individuals in or out until we had authorization to do so from the local municipal services. So why did we make that change? Well, again, I mentioned a few things before, but local law enforcement, local schools use the term lockdown in that capacity, and it just makes sense for us to kind of move forward into that and make it a little bit more clear for folks to understand and follow that practice. The second thing that we're going to actually do effective immediately is for those of you that dispatch in the dispatch office during a service, we are actually going to alleviate some of your responsibilities and make it a little bit easier for you. Effective immediately, the supervisors, whoever's scheduled, the scheduled supervisor for that service, will actually be the one that will be filling out the incident reports. Okay? And again, that's to ensure that we get reports of things that happened and hold resources accountable and show where we're using resources. And I know I've explained to you guys before, about every 6 months I like to send out a spreadsheet that shows to the pastors and the church board, showing, hey, this is what we're doing with the resources that have been given to us, and this is how we're handling them effectively and efficiently. So starting immediately, supervisors that are scheduled that day for, or that service day for a shift, will fill out an incident report. Now, if that doesn't mean that dispatchers won't jot down notes. We've got a scratch pad. We still do the dispatch log sheets for note taking. And that doesn't mean that if something happens that a supervisor might not come back to you in the dispatch office and say, hey, what was the time this happened? Or can you explain to me from your perspective what you saw on the cameras or what happened? But what it means is that after an event happens, because most of the time a supervisor would be on the scene to direct that situation, it just makes a little bit more sense for the supervisor to fill out the incident report, and in turn takes a little bit off the plate of the folks that are in the safety office dispatching, and kind of allows you to focus on the cameras and also moving people accordingly with handling radio traffic and different things like that. So if you guys have any questions about that, feel free to give a shout out. You can message me, give me a call, or grab me tomorrow evening